Aloha! In honor of 1/11/2020 and the first full moon of the new decade, we get to do 6 sutras today. First, we'll start off with Swami Satchidananda's version. I've been living for a while at the Spirit of Aloha with a guy who helped build Yogaville in Virginia and studied directly with this guy. So today, Yoga Sutra 110. Abhāva, pratyayālambanā, vrittir, nidrā. The mental modification supported by cognition of nothingness is sleep. So Abhāva, nothingness, pratyaya, cognition, alambana, support, vrittir, the modifications of the mind, and nidrā is sleep, like yoga nidra, that beautiful guided meditation we can do sometimes after a class. So this is the 4th vritti now, and Swami Satchidananda says that normally we say we do not have any thought in the mind during sleep, but actually we do have the thought of not having thought. All other thoughts are temporarily suspended except for this one thought of nothingness or emptiness in the mind, which does leave its impression on us upon waking. Moving on to 111 for today, 111. Anubhūta visayāsampramosah smrtih, which means when a mental modification of an object previously experienced and not forgotten comes back to consciousness, that is memory. Anubhūta, experience, visaya, objects, asampramosah, not forgotten, and smrtih, memory. So memories create impressions in the mind that at a later time come to the surface. This could be viewed as a samskara as well. So now we have the 5 vrittis, and we're now going to learn how we're able to control them. Moving back to Edwin F. Bryant's translation, and starting next Thursday, I get to study with him. I'm very excited for that. So 112. Abhyāsa, vairāgyābhyām, tannirodhah. The vrittis, or states of the mind, are stilled by practice and dispassion. This is huge here. This is such an important sutra for us. Abhyāsa, practice. Vairāgyābhyām, dispassion or renunciation, or even non-attachment. Tat, there, which relates to the vrittis, and nirodhah are controlled. So now that Patanjali has explained what a vritti is, now he brings our attention to nirodhah, restraint. So how are they to be restrained? Through practice and dispassion. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains to Arjuna, "O Arjuna, but it can be controlled by Abhyāsa, vairāgyābhyām." So even in the Gita, we get to the exact same point here. And I also really like what Swami Satchidananda mentions, that on the positive side, you practice. On the other side, you detach yourself from the cause of these vrittis. Moving on to 113. Tatra Sthitau yatno'bhyāsah. From these, practice is the effort to be fixed in concentrating the mind. Ekagrata, single-minded focus. So Tatra, of these, relating to Abhyāsa and vairāgya, Sthitau, in the matter of, or steadfastness, yatna is effort, and Abhyāsa is practice. So practice is defined as the effort to concentrate the mind. And sometimes we'll hear sadhana, which is our daily spiritual practice. Moving on to 114. Satu dirgha kāla nairantarya satkārāsevito drdhabhūmih. practice becomes firmly established when it has been cultivated uninterruptedly and with devotion over a long period of time. He doesn't say 3 months, 1 year, he just says a long period of time. Sa is it, relating to the practice. Tu, but. Dirgha, prolonged. Kāla, a period of time. Nairantarya, uninterruptedly. Satkāra, reverence. Ashveta, attended to or cultivated. Drdha, firm, and bhūmih, ground. And Swami Satchidananda also mentions that he relates a story to, he gives a student a mantra, and 3 days later they come back and say, I've done it for 3 days and it's not working. Can I have another one? He says, no, you must be disciplined and continue to do this uninterruptedly. He has another story as well of the student saying, oh, I've been practicing yoga for 10 years. He says, that's great. How often? And they say, well, off and on. So again, for a long period of time, uninterrupted. And I'm very excited because what just arrived in the mail for me is BKS Iyengar's version of the Yoga Sutras. And by version, I mean his translation. So 115, Drstānuśravika, visaya, vitrsnasya, vaśīkāra, samjñā, vairāgyam. That was a tough one. Renunciation is the practice of detachment from desires. Drishta, like drishti or drashtahu, perceptible or visible. Anubhūta, heard or listening, which is resting on the Vedas. Visaya, a thing or an object of enjoyment. Vitrsnasya, freedom from desire or even contentment, like santosha. Vaśīkāra, subjugation, supremacy, or bringing under the control. Samjñā, which is our consciousness. Vairāgyam, again, absence of worldly desires and passions. Dispassion and detachment. So what Iyengar says here is that when non-attachment and detachment are learned, there is no craving for objects seen or unseen, words heard or unheard. And he relates the chitta, the mind, as the 11th sense. That we have the 5 senses of perception, which are the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. And then we have the 5 organs of action, arms, legs, mouth, generative, and excretory organs. Then we have the 11th being the chitta. Iyengar goes on to explain what the 5 states of vairāgya are, and he says that we must remember that we need practice and detachment or dispassion. A bird cannot fly with 1 wing. It needs 2 wings to fly. To reach the highest spiritual goal, the 2 wings of yoga, Abhyāsa and vairāgya, are essential. There's also some reference by all of the commentators here about the yogis who have been exposed for being less than holy while still preaching the words of yoga. And what they say here is that if you look at their early life, they are practicing uninterruptedly for a long period of time. And then they maybe lessen their practice a little bit and become overcome by the desires and temptations of this world. So even those masters, their message was still great, but even they who reached a super high level came down without that continued practice. So this is an inspiration for all of us to maintain that ekagrata for the next years and generations and births and rebirths to come. There's also a great story where we could I'll summarize it and say, Lord Shiva's walking down the road and he comes across a yogi and he says, Lord Shiva, please tell me, how many more lifetimes do I have until I come to enlightenment? And he says, you have 4 lifetimes left. And the guy says, are you kidding me? I've been studying and practicing and meditating for years and years, decades. 4 more lifetimes? Man. And Shiva walks on. He comes across another yogi who's singing Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. And he says, Lord Shiva, how's it going, man? How many more lifetimes do I have until I reach enlightenment? He says, do you see all the leaves up here on this tree? Can you count them? He says, yeah, sure, I've got the patience. Do you want me to right now? He says, no, not necessary. That's how many more lifetimes you have until you reach enlightenment. And the guy says, whoa, that's amazing. I actually know how many more lifetimes I have and it's attainable. Oh my God, glory, this is fantastic. And because the yogi was so detached from the amount of time, Lord Shiva says, oh, okay, you passed the test. You can just go to enlightenment right now. So I hope everybody's doing well with this new moon, which is full, this new full moon. And peace and love as always. Namaste.